Well, hello, folks. It's been an interesting weekend. This video is on my friend Elliot Mcdavid and Inchooh Isdai, and she's up in Treaty 8 on the other side of the province in Grand Prairie, all the way through Peace Country. Folks, if you don't know, I was born in Peace River, Alberta, along with Chrystia Freeland. I have lots of friends and followers who still have the same family ties that Chrystia Freeland have. Chrystia Freeland went to high school in Edmonton, Alberta. I know nothing of all that. My parents sold their farm in Peace River when I was young and moved to Edmonton, Alberta. We still have the Serbies, same family friends. There's a whole history of the Freeland family in Peace River, Alberta. Specifically, folks, before I get into Elliot Mcdavid and so much more, this is, I guess, a breaking video, and I am front and center on it. I didn't endorse anything that happened this weekend with Elliot and Inchooh, but I'm going to speak on as much as I can. And I did talk to Elliot today. I said I would speak about it and go through everything entirely. So with Saskatchewan, and it's happening here in Alberta, the Liberals are going around testing soils, runoff waters, farms with dugouts. They're testing the water to see on fertilizers because, folks, well, Chrystia's father owns a farm in Peace River. I, too, have that same community of friends, and in fact, there are families that rented to Chrystia Freeland's father. Happens all the time, folks. All the time, especially in Alberta. Alberta and Saskatchewan are a little bit different than the rest of Canada. I'm going to get into that, but I'm going to give you some details that you won't get in the media and you won't hear in any history. There's actually farmers, Alberta farmers from Peace River right here on my Facebook. They're not only my family friends, they're also associated with the Freeland family as well, too. Chrystia's father. See, they rented Chrystia Freeland's father land over many, many years, and many years ago. Some of that farm has been rendered useless. You can no longer grow on it. You see, folks, you can rent people's farmlands. You can burn the soil. You can burn the soil by over-fertilizing, rendering, after so many high yields, rendering the property useless for many, many decades sometimes. So, of course, Chrystia Freeland knows all about that because her father did it. I could get into the story of her immigrant mother and why she left her father. Basically a mail order situation, but I'm not here to fry anybody. I don't endorse what Elliot did to Chrystia Freeland. I don't endorse any of that. I know Inchooh was with her. Inchooh, a lot of First Nations women, a lot of big First Nations women groups are frying him as a racist, misogynistic, and of course you have Indigenous communities who are not even Treaty 8. I know that they're not, but you are, and you're his best friend. And I know you filmed it. I think that you should speak up, at least on Twitter, is the right thing to do for Elliot in that manner. The man is not racist, folks. The Teary, Elliot, I see now, you see what happens when you speak to media. They only print what the Liberals wanted them to print. You could see the smirk on Chrystia Freeland's face. And I'm going to say it again, folks. I would never endorse that action against Chrystia Freeland. I do understand frustrations. I understand for Grand Prairie and people saying Elliot's got a small dick and a big truck is a big theme. The hillbilly racist. Well, he's not. He's well into Treaty 8 and into the community. His best friend is a Treaty Indian woman. I can guarantee you that. He's been highly involved in residential school genocide, loyal supporter and follower. But he runs a small business, folks. The pandemic destroyed him and his wife and his family, caused him serious hurt. People can make fun of his clothes and his dress, but you know what? When you're pumping all your money into your family and you can't catch up, it's a big deal, especially when they're advertising trades, jobs, and everything in Grand Prairie, and the businesses aren't even getting restored. Many of the small businesses are struggling to play catch up. There is no work. There's a lot of projects people would like they don't necessarily have. So what kind of jobs was Chrystia Freeland advertising when Elliot's business has struggled so bad for the 2 years, along with other businesses, along with many other businesses? He struggled, and again, I'm not justifying what he said and did to her, chasing her down like that. You can see the grin on her face, though. It was exactly what she wanted. I know it's chased back to her party. Her party is all over Elliot's Facebooks. I mean, that's going to come forward. I don't see a criminality in it. Anyone can tell anyone off. No assault occurred. Is it right or wrong? I say it's probably wrong. There's a better way to deal with people and talk to people. Of course, how would you get the audience with her anyway? And I can see the frustration of the community. I really do. I do. And I understand what's happening with farms, especially as the Liberals are testing for the actions of Chrystia Freeland's father, looking for that because they're going to ban fertilizers upwards of 30% on farmers who rotate the crops and don't burn their own land, right? Should definitely have a constitution in the province of Alberta and every province in Canada that can set all these things into rules, not the federal government overstepping their bounds. But more on this that we're going to finish up here. So yeah, Chrystia Freeland, her story of her father and the fertilizer, Liberal government using that knowledge, going around Western Canada looking to basically pass laws to restrict fertilizers upwards of 30% on rotational crops, things that Albertans and Saskatchewan farmers need absolutely. And I can see why people are upset. Oh, there's another portion I wanted to say here that was important, and now it's slipping my mind, and it was important to talk about, but it's not going to be. Oh, yes. The whole interview on the Tyree and what they're saying about Elliot Mcdavid, everybody, you can clearly look at Elliot's history with the Conservatives, the NDP, the People's Party of Canada, and absolutely the Liberal Party. He doesn't just go after Chrystia Freeland. I mean, that was a brutal in-person altercation. Obviously, it's in Grand Prairie, but you will find that he has gone after absolutely Maxime Bernier. He's gone after absolutely the leader of CPC, or going to be leader, one Pierre Poilievre. Gone after him entirely on all his narratives. Very loyal supporter, all into the constitutionalism. Elliot, maybe he enjoyed the trucker convoy. Maybe he got involved in that. I don't really know. I didn't get involved in that. I'm vaccinated. I know he doesn't believe in vaccination. That's his choice. I don't know on posts. I don't think so. Most posts I see of his have been absolutely to do with constitutionalism, which does have merit. And I don't see any racist posts by the man, honestly, people. And again, his best friend is a Treaty 8 Indian female Inchooh, and she's the one who recorded the video. They're both rural folks. They get excited. Residential school genocide has been huge in the news. They're both devout supporters of that. They've been involved since really I started that mission as well too. You know, it's not the narrative that's getting talked about across Canada. And of course, they're trying to say alt-right when actually, honestly, I do believe Elliot Mcdavid has went after Pierre Poilievre and Maxime Bernier more than anyone else. Maybe he's hit Jagmeet Singh as well too, but he's been hugely active on all political parties. I don't see a right or left narrative. I met Elliot and Inchooh. I met them at Chris's cafe down south, and that was over a year and a half ago, and they've been pretty active. And I know Elliot's active with me at least once a week. And I think this was just a thing, folks. Upset, failing business, trying to adapt. And then you have Chrystia Freeland advertising trades, jobs in industries are shutting down in Grand Prairie. That's really hurt Grand Prairie. His business hurt big time. I know he's into auto parts and machine parts and into the trades himself and small business. It's hurt him and his family largely. So I think when you look at the picture of the tradespeople meeting, folks, I looked at it, there's one pair of work boots on one young black male. The rest of the folks are all wearing dress pants and dress shoes and dresses. I don't see tradespeople. I can look at the hands of a tradesman. I don't see a single tradesman in the picture except for the young African Canadian individual. I think it's all staged, to be honest. I don't see any major projects in Grand Prairie. Is there a shortage of tradespeople? Yes. Well, why is that? Well, housing, folks, is record off the charts. Now, Alberta and Saskatchewan, as cockamamie and crazy as housing has gotten in just the last 20 years, basically a condo I purchased when I was 22 years old went from $50,000 downtown Edmonton, Alberta, to over $250,000 now. Houses you could get for $123,000 to $195,000 to raise 3 children, 5-bedroom in Edmonton, Alberta, or Calgary, Alberta, has basically gone up 6 times its value. 6 times its value on average. Now, that's just Alberta, and I know Saskatchewan, closer to its major municipalities, same thing. Not as bad as Saskatchewan has the most settled crown land of any province in all of Canada. And still, it's basically piss all for the 38 million Canadians and the more than 2.5 million First Peoples right here in Canada. So, folks, outside of Saskatchewan, next you have Alberta. There's a little bit more land availability, but outside of the Pitchfork that is east and west Alberta at the Slave Lake intersection, and literally you follow a line of highway all the way up through High Level and beyond, and the same thing as you go all the way up to Fort Chip where the church was burnt. And you know what? I made a post, I made a tag, I got the RCMP in there. I made a statement as we literally have gone through all the residential schools across Canada, at least the ones who've done ground penetrating radar. But we have the file of all the residential schools, even the hostels, the French narrated hostel and the Inuit narrated hostel. Fort Chip is right there. There are 3 more locations after the Angel Church. Those are 3 hostels, and there's a whole history there, and it's problematic because when you look at it, you realize it was church, then state, then church, then state, except for we have a record of bodies that goes through the decades long after the original church. So if they do ground penetrating like radar like they did on another Treaty 8 location, high north and into the Arctic and Providence, guess what those studies found? More bodies at the first location, meaning both church and state, meaning the government of Alberta and obviously the government of Canada, and I'll get into the article on that, both participated back and forth. So clearly it's church and state, but state over church, meaning church worked for state. This is huge in genocide. It's huge against the government of Canada. I just find it funny that we have Chrystia, Freeland in Grand Prairie, Justin Trudeau in Cold Lake, and then there's the Slave Lake break and all private property in Alberta. At that point, Alberta only has southern Alberta settled. Stettler, the heart of Alberta, the central system of Alberta, central Alberta, Calgary, southern Alberta, Edmonton, northern Alberta. Well, why is that? Because, watch my hands now, this is the province of Alberta, and it gets up on a big pie, right? And you got the Rockies over here, and it narrows down. Alberta's only settled right down here. That's it. That's the entirety of Alberta. Alberta is completely smaller than what you're led to believe. And hear me out. As you get into Jasper, Banff, and then up to Jasper, all the way to Fairview and all that, it's all federal crown land. Another big portion up top, federal crown land, where Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland were hanging out. There's another big chunk of federal land up above that, and it gets into where this church burnt. Where this church burnt, it wouldn't be logical for Treaty 8 to burn the church. I just find it funny that the Liberals are in Alberta, Chrystia Freeland here, Justin Trudeau here, and the church burns up here on federal crown land. Okay? We've all been to Banff, you've been to Jasper, you see the overwhelming investment of federal government there. Well, up north there's a big chunk, another federal crown land with a huge evil residential school genocide legacy. And a church burns, and then all this has happened with Chrystia Freeland on the one side of it, Justin Trudeau, Deputy Prime Minister, church burns. I'm going to tell you all right now, Treaty 8 wouldn't burn that church. I don't have the authority to tell. I made a promise in Treaty 8 for Treaty 8 that I wouldn't release some details here, but I can guarantee everybody, Treaty 8 from top to bottom in their governing system, as limited as it is, I don't see a Treaty 8 Indian after the monumental gains they've just had on the world stage for the first time in Canadian history for any First Peoples. When I say Treaty 8, I mean the entirety of Treaty 8, the northern Alberta, the entirety of Treaty 8 from top to bottom. Can't go into too much detail, but I can almost guarantee you a Treaty 8 Indian would have never in a million years burnt that church. Not after what Treaty 8 accomplished in northern Alberta on the world stage for the first time in Canadian history. Monumental. Again, folks, I find it funny. Deputy Prime Minister in Grand Prairie, Prime Minister in Cold Lake, at the V-Forks. I told you about Alberta. The only private property, the only description of Alberta is that southern portion, right? And we're talking like a little bit past northern Alberta. Then you get into just the Slave Lake, branch off of two highways, and it's just slim little margins, small communities in between. That's it. The rest of Alberta doesn't belong to any Albertans, none whatsoever, or any other Canadians. You can hang out there. You can't build a life there. You can't build a home there. You can't harvest a resource there. You can't do anything with it. All of that massive portion of Alberta belongs to your provincial politicians. Banff, Jasper, and that northern piece belong to the federal government. About 10% of Alberta is the federal government's, meaning Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland's, because they're in power right now. And then in Alberta, Jason Kenney and his party, they control the remaining massive provincial crown land. So get into provinces, it gets worse as you go east, absolutely worse in BC. It's why housing gets jacked through the roof. You can literally take Canada's private land, less than 10% of what it actually is, and it almost matches, at least for Ontario, all of Ontario and its population fits in to Florida and then some. You can take Quebec and Florida and private property and place it into Florida, the little handle, very easily. That's why prices in the U.S. are so low. I mean, not for those highly dense cities, but absolutely for the rest of the states. Like I can go to Florida, a half hour out of Jacksonville, buy 1 acre with 1,400 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. Needs a good reno, but it's all there. It all works for 40,000 Canadian dollars. For an acre, all serviced, I own it, with annual taxes of 187 American. Good luck trying to do that in Alberta or even Saskatchewan, unless you want to be 5 hours from like Edmonton or Regina, right? You're going to be really, really far. But a half hour out of Jacksonville, I can go do that. Property doesn't radically go up in the United States. I mean, there are dense cities, 320 million people, folks. There are some seriously dense cities that do see the prices go up, but Canada forces that upon you. 87% of Ontario is Crown land. This is not true for the United States of America, not even Mexico, only in Canada. Think about that. These aren't parks, government parks, or public land. It's Crown land, meaning it literally belongs to your federal and provincial politicians. Then we just had a church burn extremely close to federal Crown land where the Prime Minister is literally sitting under it, and on the other side of it is the Deputy Prime Minister. Like, I'm not saying what happened with Elliot this weekend was appropriate. It wasn't. All I know is it's interesting that she showed up there. It's interesting Trudeau showed up here to set up all these meetings and deals, sign these deals in Alberta. We have federal officers testing fertilizer to try and reduce fertilizer by 30% to run small farmers out, just like they ran a ton of small businesses out of business in places like Grand Prairie. And now they're there advertising a whole pile of work that nobody seems to have. I probably would lose it too. I could see Justin Trudeau showing up this December screaming about how much Boilermaker and welding jobs there are this December when everybody's unemployed, right? They stack all the shutdowns together, which used to be illegal in Alberta, because when there's no construction jobs, which there are not, there's not going to be any major pipelines. Anyone telling you that is a liar. Justin Trudeau is the king of liars. But so is Pierre Poilievre, and so is Jagmeet Singh. Elliot Mcdavid didn't just go after Chrystia Freeland. I know it's bad how he did that. I know it's being painted that he's a racist. That's not true. It's not true, especially for First Peoples. Again, his best friend is First Nations. It's Inchooh, Isdai, Treaty 8, and he's not a wicked guy. He's just a small town, small business guy who blew his top because he's had enough. Him and his family suffered. His business suffered. He lost it. Was it wrong? Sure. I hope he reaches out and apologizes. But how many farmers are going to now suffer across Western Canada because of what Chrystia Freeland's father routinely did on farmland he rented, burning it so that it can't be used for a very long time, over-fertilizing, and then turning around, and now they're going to punish all farmers who don't do that because they own their farms, they rotate their crops, but now that's what they're going to be doing to you. They're going to take federal legislation in their own hands. And again, for those who believe that the Charter, or for Quebec, the Bill of Rights, or at any time in Canada's history since 1867 all the way to now, with all 11 amendments, that we've ever had any true, real rights and freedoms, I'm sorry, but it's always had the exceptions. It's always had the Prime Minister veto, or the Privy Council veto, which is sworn to the Prime Minister, or the Governor General veto, which again is sworn to the Prime Minister, or it had Lieutenant Governor's veto through the legislator to premiers, and they make deals back and forth. The groundwork was set since day one for provincial constitutionalism, which gives every Canadian in every province and territory, even outside of Lieutenant Governor's territories, have the Royal Commissioners, which is Lieutenant Governor. There's 13 roles to play in Shadow Crown that no Canadian is ever taught about in school. You're never taught any civics, none whatsoever. And do you know why? You're not taught any civics, never to learn about civil rights or to learn about all the powers of constitutionalism, because there isn't any, not for the provinces. They're supposed to be. Your 212-page Constitution gives it to you in tremendous detail. There was no reason that you couldn't have all the division of powers enshrined by you, the people, in separate individual provincial constitutions, just like Russia in its 84 regions, or the United States in its 50 states. They've had them for a very, very long time. In the United States case, longer than the United States was a country. They had them before. But not in Canada. We're supposed to be a federalist. They say we are, but yet there's not one provincial constitution. And don't ever say to me the Alberta Bill of Rights or anything else. That's like saying we have a constitution of the federal powers constitution to reinforce that we will follow the federal government in their division of powers. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear about my civil rights, my human rights, my property rights, my water rights, the rights of education for my children, the rights to health and how that's to be administered, the rights to so many things like resources and how I trade those interprovincially, because in each province picks those up. You end up like the United States or the Russian Federation. Do you ever hear of the United States and East State going, I can't get my products to market? You ever heard of a landlocked state? And there's 50 of them, 320 million people. Have you ever heard a state fight another state on anything? The answer is no. Have you ever heard of the Russian Federation, any one of 84 regions ever having a fight about getting their products to market? The answer is no. Why? Because all of that is assigned and written, codified in their regional constitutions, which has been called for Canada since 1867. But no premiers want to do it, and the Prime Minister likes that because the Prime Minister gets ultimate power. And then so do all the premiers. Once they're elected for 4 years, they can literally rape, pillage, and plunder you. Not figuratively, I mean literally. And they have. They've committed atrocious crimes, but where are your human rights? Where are your civil rights? Where are your real property rights? Don't say, well, there's a law. Well, yeah, but they can change the law any day of the week. Every law finishes with how they can override any law they want. Because why? There's no rules of governance or how to govern, and absolutely no accountability. The only accountability is the only right you really have is to vote every 4 years for a new autocratic dictator. And that's what happens, folks. I hope, Elliot Mcdavid, you step up with Inchooh. I hope you both step up and apologize. I would do that. I can understand why you're angry. I'm not saying you have to like her, but it hurts our party, and it won't be long. You've already seen the stories they're writing. We're not an alt-right party. We're not an alt-left party. We're the party of the Canadian constitutionalists, and we don't need to get dragged down because that's not the truth. We're not racist. We have a lot of First People support. We're not extreme right, and we're definitely not lunatic left. We're everything the Crown hates, and we need you guys to do the right thing here and at least say sorry. People are going to hate, but at least there's a lot of First People. No, they're not Treaty 8, but, British Columbia unceded. Then we got other numbered treaty Indians. We even have Inuit communities. I know it's people trying to jump on bandwagons, but I think for both of you, a video together and to show everybody that this is the real Elliot Mcdavid and Inchooh, you're his best friend. Maybe, that's the right thing to do. If people haven't heard the accent on the video of the filmer, that's Inchooh, and it's her accent. I mean, that would be the right thing to do, and I think Canadians need to hear that, but I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not saying you have to like her, but you know what? Everybody's written the stories. Everyone's talking that you're an alt-right conspiracy theorist, that you are in love with the Conservatives and Maxime Bernier and the rest of it, which is an absolute lie because they don't do any research. They wouldn't look at all the news posts over the last 2 years where you challenge them every day of the week, along with the Liberals, along with Chrystia Freeland, along with almost every corrupt Crown party. And I do appreciate both of you for that. And I understand it's tough times in Grand Prairie. And I do understand that tempers flare. And I think a statement about the loss of business, a statement about the farming community, and a statement about Chrystia Freeland's family history in Peace Country. I think that's a great one. I just did the video. I have other friends on this Facebook that know my family and the Freeland family. Lots of Alberta friends all the way down to Mundare and Mundare sausage. We have Ukrainian friends from there all the way up to Grand Prairie and all the way on the other side of the province and all the way down south. But for me, from Mundare all the way to Grand Prairie, Spirit River and on through Peace River, Alberta, I've got a lot of farming friends and family, Ukrainian, and we know the truth. And the truth is hardly ever shared in the media, and we all know that. So please do the right thing. And you know what the right thing is? To apologize. It's not saying you like her, you support her. It's that your temper flared. Just tell everybody why you exploded, why you're so angry. And that's all you can do. And, let everybody know, it's not the white hillbilly that everybody likes to portray. And that's what they did. And I know it's a sad state of affairs, how the world is, how looked down tradespeople, farmers, and those who work with their hands or work in small business are treated, especially in remote communities. It's sad, it's awful, and, it'll never change. It'll never change. It's its own brand of misogyny in the same context. I don't know how you'd narrate that. I'm sure there's a word for it, but people who judge people just on their conditions, where they live, their education, the rest of it. And, we saw this in history. It was what led to the rise of so much that was World War I and World War II. And it's the idea of people believing they're superior to other people, that it's okay to downsize people and minimize people. I just went through it today on Twitter Spaces with Americans, and the socialist concepts they think, fighting the Joe Biden narratives and people's utopia fantasy. If you've never shoveled shit in your life, if you've never worked in a sewer, if you've never worked in a mine, don't make it you think that the world isn't full of forced labor, because it most certainly is. Nobody wants to do shit work. The one thing about capitalism is that you get paid performance, and a lot of people do jobs that nobody wants to do for the money. And people got to realize that you're not superior because of your education, or you live on Wall Street, or what neighborhood you live in the main city. Remember, somebody does your plumbing, somebody's doing your sewer, somebody's doing your water, and I promise you none of those jobs are fun. They're not what people grow up going, boy, I can't wait to be in a sewer when I grow up. Or I can't wait to be 6 weeks away from my wife and kids in a dirty, filthy mine, sucking on toxins, absorbing into my skin filthy, and knowing that my life expectancy is lower than everybody else. I don't think anyone grows up like that. But money makes the world go round. And 70% of the world forces that labor. They have an easy solution in these socialist utopias. Forced labor. And in monarchies like ours, they just do colonialism. Mass immigration. Don't worry. We'll never be short on jobs like Chrystia, Freeland, Justin Trudeau. We will ramp up immigration, and people who don't speak good English or can't get into school because of the barriers, and they will do the shit work because they have no choice. And if we pump enough people in, they'll fill those jobs. And who cares about unemployment? Who cares about the suffrage, the housing crisis? Because there's no land availability, and we're squeezing more and more people into literally only 10% of Canada. We are way more dense than the lying Justin Trudeau, Stephen Harper, and we can go all the way back to Pierre Elliot Trudeau. Every single conservative and liberal prime minister who lied about our density in the United Nations. We're not alone. Australia and New Zealand do it too. It's no secret. It's a crown colonial lie that our density isn't true, because Canadians can't live on crown land. You're not allowed to build a home there. You're not allowed to buy the property. You can visit, but you can't stay. The crown makes all the decisions. They allow all the wealth generation there. And whatever bills and expenses are incurred after they fill their pockets, they're placed upon all of you. And no, it's not in trust for the legal description from the 1876 Indian Act, Savage Indian. No, that's not yours. You get reserves, literally 0.2% of Canada for 2.5% of the population of Canada. If you don't like it, they call you off reserve or unceded, and we will go to war with you. That's what provincial and federal crown governments have been doing. Look at BC Cascadia. Right now, NDP John Horgan is at full war with several First Peoples in British Columbia. And Canadians don't know this. It is war. That's why they're called unceded. The same is in Ontario right now in what's called Caledonia. 6 nations or up to 5 nations forever and a day. But the worst is the Cascadia, the most horrific outside of residential school genocide. So that's the truth, folks. I hope this video helps. I hope it gets shared out. I hope people learn the truth right here from Alberta and know what's going on. There's always more sides to a coin. And First Peoples, don't be so quick to rag on people. If you watch the video, listen to who's filming, listen to the accent. That's Treaty 8. That's my video. Bye now.